Hi everyone, my name is Jo Stansfield. I'm a chapter lead for the Rising Network in Cambridge. I'd like to talk to you a little bit to introduce my research that I've carried out. It's all about gender and racial diversity in technology. So let me start by just telling you a little bit about myself. I'm the founder of a firm just established called Inclusioneering. We are a social enterprise that is providing diversity and inclusion consultancy. I'm also global lead for diversity and inclusion at Aviva, a leading FTSE 100 firm providing technology to industry undergoing digital transformation. So my background is actually in technical roles. I've been a software engineer, a product manager, and led a department making software for some of these engineering assets that you can see down the left of the screen. I've actually been doing this for too many years, but in the last few years, I've really become more and more curious about why we see such little diversity within tech and engineering fields. So much so that I've pivoted my career. I'm now focused upon diversity and inclusion, the human factors behind tech and engineering rather than the technical. And in support of this transition, I have taken a master's degree in Organisational Psychology. And this is where the research that I'm going to present to you has come from. I'm also mum to two noisy little boys, Leon and Elliot, so hopefully you will not hear them bursting in partway through this presentation, fingers crossed. So I'd like to start by introducing you to a friend of mine. Now I've anonymised her, so she's remaining anonymous here, but we'll call her Shenaz. Shenaz graduated a few years back from a good English uni with a master's degree in mathematics. She's very technical minded. She absolutely loves solving problems and using her analytical skills, and became a software engineer when she graduated, with aspirations to become more and more technical, really become an expert in the technical field by becoming a software architect. So she started her career by joining a firm, let's call them Fubar Solutions, in one of their agile development teams. Now Shenaz is very good team player. She likes to fit her strengths around what others do and help the team to achieve their best overall. And over time, as she got embedded within her team, she found actually all of the most technical tasks were going to other people, and she was really doing much more around organising people and picking up some of the softer side of the work. And actually so much so that she was recognised by her teammates as really helping the team in this manner, and she was soon offered the role of becoming a project manager. So it wasn't quite aligned with her own aspirations, but she accepted the role. It did seem to be a good opportunity to make some progression and have some broader responsibility. But now 3 years on, she feels like her career has stagnated. She's not really certain that she's followed the path that she had really aspired to. And she's wondering, what do I do to reignite my career? So let me zoom out a little bit from Shenaz and talk a little bit about the tech field that she's working within. So tech is well known for not being a particularly diverse domain to work in. In fact, in the UK, we only have 17% of the IT workforce being women. And despite numerous interventions, this hasn't changed in any meaningful way for the past decade. Now, people from ethnic minority backgrounds are much better represented. It's more representative of the population, but not completely. Now, for both women and people from ethnic minority backgrounds, they experience what is known as the leaky pipeline. So representation drops off as we look at more senior levels within an organisation. So by the time we're looking at IT director level, we only have 9% representation of people from an ethnic minority background, and leadership positions in the tech industry are only held by 5% by women. So alongside these low progression rates, we actually also see higher exit rates from these careers. That's as compared to white men and also as compared to other fields. So this tells us this isn't only something about the people who are working in these roles, it's about the career path itself. So of course, this has impacts on the individuals affected, that they may not be achieving the aspirations that they have set out to, much like Shenaz. But actually, the impacts are much broader than that. They also impact us in terms of economical and societal impacts. So we have a global skills shortage at the moment for digital skills. As Industry 4.0 is transforming industry to become digital, we're finding there's rapid growth in technologies such as Internet of Things, artificial intelligence and machine learning, and the skills in the population are just not keeping up with the demand for work. The Digital Disruption Index actually found that only 18% of school leavers have got the right skills and experience to be able to enter these type of roles in 2019. And Accenture calculated that over £140 billion in GDP will be forgone if this skills gap isn't closed by 2028. Now, another reason this is really very important is that algorithms are now increasingly automating decision-making, and that decision-making can impact people. So it's imperative that we have a more diverse workforce, not only to address the skills gaps, but it's also vital to ensure that we're building technology that is benefits to everybody across society and does not inbuild bias. So what does research tell us about what's going on here? Well, first of all, one of the things that really has caught my attention is that an awful lot of the things that are put forward as best practices for diversity and inclusion actually align very well with some of the development methodologies used in tech teams. So this is a surprise. Why do we have such a pipeline problem if we're already following some things that are known to be good practice? Well, lots of research has looked at what does actually happen throughout people's careers, much of it looking at the big ticket career events, and it finds disparities for women and people in racial, ethnic, minority backgrounds. So that is, as you're looking for a job, when it comes to performance assessments, in terms of pay increases. And this all leads to the leaky pipeline that I mentioned earlier. But what really interests me here is what do we see day to day? All of these big ticket events might happen once a year, every couple of years, but is there anything that we can see happening that's not equal in the everyday work interactions? And can we interrupt that in the day-to-day life? Because of course that may lead to solutions that over time actually address in a very meaningful way some of the issues that we see here. So I set out to find some answers, and what I did was to launch a survey online called the Agile Experiences Survey. This was open to all members of technology teams working following this Agile methodology. And the reason for that, it's very amenable to answering some questions because it follows quite a well-defined structure. So what did I find? Well, first up, actually, some of the things that are good about Agile did really show up as good, and that showed in the findings in people's job satisfaction. However, it also showed that women and racial minority team members do have different experiences from their white male counterparts. So first up, women, anyone in a tech team won't be surprised by this finding, is that women do have less technical tasks than the men in the team. But what was interesting here was I also asked about how important do you consider your work to be and the tasks that you're assigned. And there was a clear correlation that emerged between how technical a job is and how important it's perceived as. So this implies that those technical tasks are more valued by the team and may be of concern to the people who are not achieving or not being assigned these higher technicality of tasks. Now, the next finding relates to the ethnic minority participants who were found to have lower job satisfaction. And actually, in terms of the answers they were giving in the survey, it seems that some of the reasons behind this is they don't perceive they have the same autonomy that people who are white have. And of course, this lower job satisfaction may explain their higher exit rate from these careers. One thing that really stood out to me as interesting, though, was that racial minority participants were actually found to have the highest career aspirations of all participants, above white men, and actually on more than one dimension. So both in terms of leadership and in education, their aspirations were very high. So why then are they not achieving progression that's aligned with these ambitions? Well, what I think is going on here is that we're seeing a misalignment of values and expectations between the participants in this survey and the organisations that they work for. As I mentioned, women's tasks, less technical, may be perceived as less important by the team, so their work is not translating so well into progression opportunities. Now, likewise, the leadership and educational aspirations of the ethnic minority participants are not translating to progression. It seems that their organisation culture is not recognising this ambition and not translating this into progression opportunities. So what recommendations do I have? Well, first up, Agile has got good practices, but they're not enough on their own to build inclusion and equality in tech teams. And so we need to take much further conscious action to disrupt these patterns that we see that are leading to unequal experience and potentially unequal opportunities. So thank you for listening so far. If you'd like to know more, I'll be presenting some webinars about this research. And of course, please just get in touch with me if you'd like a chat about any of this and how it might apply to you and your team. I've got my contact details on screen here. So please do keep the conversation going, get in touch or call into one of the webinars. Many thanks for listening.